Very interesting. Let's hear more about it. Hey everybody, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing good. I am doing just great. I am dry sanding with 800 grit sandpaper, and this is the Dave Mustaine Chinese built guitar. Yes, I know, it's a fake, clone, whatever you want to call it, but the bones of this is pretty nice. The electronics suck pretty good. So do the tuners. So what I've done here is strip this thing down, removed everything that is possibly remove other than the frets. The frets just seem to be pretty good. I got the neck nice and straight. Before I get into doing the next stages of what I want to do with this thing, I will end up doing a nice polish on these frets. Surprisingly, the frets are pretty even on this thing. I really don't have to do any type of a leveling, which I'm actually shocked for a Chinese copy of something. Although, the reason why I'm doing the finish is because the finish sucked. Alright, so I found a few things as I was going into the deep dive of this guitar and started disassembling and getting it ready for new parts. I ended up finding a few spots where one of them is right here where it's a little bit of a chip, and I also found, like, if you can see, there's like a kind of a shiny stripe going this way, there's some stripes going this way. You kind of see that either it's in the wood or it is the finish that is the problem with this. So I'm not too sure which one it is, but I sanded a lot of it out, so when I put my next coats of clear on here, yeah, it will be a lot flatter and look a lot nicer. So I end up sanding this thing with 800 grit sandpaper. The headstock I hit with a 1500 grit because I did not want to lose any of the logo or anything else that's on the top. Unbelievable the amount of rubbing compound that was in all of the cavities on this guitar that I still have to remove more of it. This is why you save like some of these old toothbrushes. This has got a lot more of a stronger, stiffer type of bristles on it. This one here is a lot softer. And then I also have, pipe cleaner styles, which gets really good into the tuner holes, which that had a pile of rubbing compound over here. I mean, it was bad. So the tuners are trashed. They're in the garbage right now. I ended up having to cut the nut a little bit around the edges because they did clear coat around the nut. I don't know if you can really tell that or not. It's kind of shiny there. But surprisingly, this nut is bone. Yeah, I mean, it's not plastic. This is a bone nut. Usually with the plastic, you'll end up seeing some holes underneath it, or it's actually hollow in some spots. And this is solid. This is not a plastic nut, which this will be going back on here. The only thing I kind of noticed where they ended up putting in the notches for the strings. Again, I don't know if you can see that or not, but they look kind of like they were drilled in first, but I could be wrong. They just don't look right. Like this side here goes in nice and straight. This side here has a hook on it, and so does this one here. So that's going to have to be corrected when I put the strings on here and get the action height at the first fret where it's supposed to be. Luckily, the action height at the first fret was a little bit on the high side, so I'll be able to fix that. Truss rod works, two-way truss rod inside of here, and it works pretty nice. The neck is nice and straight. So why am I refinishing this thing? Well, I've noticed on a couple of spots, like that little chip in the clear coat that I just showed is not a big deal, but I noticed a lot of other things that don't look right with this. And some of it you can actually feel. So if somebody were to grab this guitar off the wall and decide, well, check it out and play it or something like that, and they'll sit there and say, like, well, your neck is really, really wavy. I mean, there's not flat. So what I ended up doing, I'm going to do, like, I'll show you, like right over here, there is a wave. You can tell by the light. It's not kind of smooth or a straight bar the way the light looks. It's, especially over here, you can kind of see it right there. But yeah, this neck is not consistently flat. I mean, it's not supposed to be flat as far as being the surface itself should be. But as far as, it should be rounded the way a neck is supposed to be. But when you're playing this, and you can actually feel as you slide your hand down it, all the waves and stuff that are in this. So hopefully that's a finished thing. And the way that the rest of the guitar looked, I believe it probably is. So by the time I build up my clear coat on top of this thing the way that I would normally build up my clear coat, and then flush sand it and everything else, this should be nice and flat. It shouldn't be all wavy and goofy. And I also want to keep, the logos and stuff that are on the back of the headstock as well. So I'll end up sanding that with probably 1500 grit paper instead of the 800 grit paper. And the reason why I'm dry sanding it is I can kind of like see the scratches and how I'm scratching this. And it's not a fog. Like if I were to wet sand this, it would be more of a fog. Right now, I want to see the scratches, and I want to control the scratches. So if I'm going one direction, I'm also going to go in the other direction, not going through the clear, but leveling the clear out and giving it a crisscross pattern for the clear coat to adhere to that, using 800 grit sandpaper instead of like a 400 grit sandpaper. 400 grit sandpaper, I start putting clear on there, I'm going to start seeing the scratch marks in the clear from the sandpaper. And we've done this, years ago. We used to use 800 grit sandpaper before applying paint and stuff or touch-ups, and never had a problem or issues with it. Usually it'd be wet sanding, but this way here I want to see and have more control over. And if I have, like, say, like the paper's clogged up, the nice thing about this is all I got to do is just rub it on a towel a couple times and it unclogs itself. So I'll be able to reuse the piece of sandpaper to get things done the way I want to get them done. So that's the story on this. It's going to be refinished. I don't really care about the pattern not lining up the way it's supposed to line up perfectly with the top of the guitar, but the pattern's there. I can always get a hold of Steve and have another one of these made and apply it myself. But this is not too far gone, or you can't make out what it is or anything else. It's in good shape, and once I hit this with the clear coat, it'll start to pop out again. Right now it's got like a matte dry finish. Around the neck over here, they ended up doing a thing where it was really bad as far as the clear coat goes. I really needed to sand that down. It was kind of a little bit on the lumpy, bumpy side, and there is a run on each side of the neck over here where the binding is, so I got to flatten that out a little bit, and it kind of goes down a little bit around the side over here. Not too bad, but it's there. I don't want this to be perfect, but I do want it to look really nice. Again, this is going to be a functional wall art, and I don't want it to be, shitty. So, a few flaws here and there, going to be corrected, going to be taken care of. And this is not going to be finished to where it's going to be like showroom finish, but it'll be my standards as far as the finish goes. So let's get into this EMG pickup that China makes that, aren't very good. Are you ready for your close-up? All right, so here is the EMG, and it's disassembled form. So what I ended up doing is I'm not going to use the electronics that came with this guitar. I'm going to end up replacing them. I got a deal on some new pickups. It's still going to be active, but it's not going to be this active. So here we have 2 coils, and basically they are, well, hot rails, but one single magnet in the back of it. Now these were wax potted pretty good, and after taking off all the wax, well, nothing is really glued. It just kind of disassembles. So here's your magnet. I'm not sure what type of magnet this is. When you look at the blades for your hot rails, yeah, it's pretty rusted all the way around. Same thing with the other piece. It's pretty rusted all the way around. And you can see how this was cut. It was pinched cut, not sawn cut. Move those off to the side. And you got your 2 coils. Okay. Doesn't look like there's very many wraps that are on this thing. It doesn't look like your standard pickup coils. Usually they're a little bit taller, and they're a little bit more full on the bobbin as far as the wraps go. Now, I believe there's tape on here. I could peel it off, but it almost looks like it's an epoxy that's on there. And then you have this. All right. So this is the little board that makes these pickups supposedly do their job and scream chicken when you pluck a string. So what do we have here? We have a capacitor, a resistor, another resistor, an IC chip, resistor, capacitor, resistor. Here is your power and your outputs and your ground. Then you have a capacitor, and then you have resistor, and capacitor here. Now, this area here, if you chip away at the black, which that's the epoxy, there's nothing underneath here. This is just a round circle. And all of this are your traces that go to each component on the board. Now, doing some research on this, I don't know why people would buy Chinese style EMG pickups, but you can buy them. They're all over eBay. You could purchase them for much more cheaper than what standard or regular EMGs would be for an active system, compared for, $25 coming from China, and say $200, or depending on what, where, or who you're getting them from, which I've been getting them from, off of eBay as well. But, I haven't been spending $200 on my sets of pickups that I've been getting, but I guarantee you they're not Chinese. So these are not supposed to work when there's no power to it. Well, in a previous video that I ended up doing, I still got sound. No battery was installed on the guitar, and you still ended up having sound. So this works as a pass-through without the battery, and you're able to get, I don't know, I wouldn't even call it a decent tone. I've tried distortion with it. I tried clean signal with it. The output is there. It's weak, but the output is there. When you're on distortion, you really have to turn the gain up, not the volume, but the gain up on whatever sim or amp you're using in order to produce the tone that you're actually looking for. Now, I did have a battery put in. This is the neck pickup. I did have a battery put in on this and did a simulated, like holding the pickup over strings, grounding out the pickup, and putting a battery to it and everything else, and trying to get like a sound off of this thing that was, I don't know, compatible to, or complementable to other pickups that I may have used, heard, or seen, or whatever. No way. You're not going to get the sound that you are looking for off of these Chinese pickups. They're bad. I mean, they're just terrible. Clean sound. It's weak with the battery now. It's weak. It doesn't produce the highs, lows, and mids that you, I guess, are looking for or would get on other pickups. You actually have to add to this in order to get the same type of sound. Now, I compared this with a set of EMGs that I actually have in another guitar in my Jackson, and you could hear a difference right away, night and day. I mean, it's with the Jackson, it's a lot more cleaner, and that's got 8185s inside of it, EMGs. It's a lot cleaner. The tones are more like definite, I like to say, and maybe I'm using the wrong word, but you're getting a better quality pickup, and that better quality pickup is producing a better sound. These are crap. This is like, I don't know why people would even bother buying them. What they should have done is they just should have put a normal humbucker inside there with a plastic cover and stamped it with EMG instead of going through this trouble to make it worse. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it, and I'm going to get back to working on this body on this guitar because I want to get it clear coated tonight.